Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fridays with Chase Hukill. Yeah. So those of you who actually watch my weekly show will know that I've been spending a lot of time inside of this study room. What you might have seen last time was how somebody messed with my stuff, or how I stayed persistent and kept on going with it. What I wanted to talk about this time was I wasn't going to talk about some political stuff, and I don't want to talk about something that's been going on in my week, because let's be honest, nobody really cares. But but instead I want to explain something that I find interesting, just to give you just a bit of like a history lesson. So let's start off, and I know this might sound really, really boring, but this is the history of patent law. And I know it sounds really boring, but it's actually really interesting once you actually learn about it. So let's start off here in ancient Greece, about 500 years before Christ, in the city of Sybaris. So what happened was, back then, patents were things that were granted to you by the government. And it still is kind of now, but back then it was encouragement held out to all who should discover any new refinement in luxury. The profits arising from which were secured to the inventor by patent for the space of 1 year. Now at the time, there was this guy here, Athenaeus, who wrote about a guy called Philarchus, and that's where this quote here comes from. But the rights granted for 1 year were to creators of unique culinary dishes, because at this time, cooking with steam was just now being discovered, and it was something that was just absolutely revolutionary for the culinary arts. And I think that's pretty interesting. Like, can you imagine if nowadays somebody found like a whole new way of cooking food and it just revolutionized everything? And that's crazy, isn't it? So let's get forward to England in the year 1331. So grants are in the form of letters patent. A letters patent is an open document issued by a monarch or government conferring a patent or other right. The earliest known one that they have is a grant of 1331 to John Kemp. Now, John Kemp was a weaver, and this grant was granted by King Edward III of England. And what happened was, just got accidentally erased a little bit of my work. Anyway, this granted access into England for John Kemp and his company, his crew, his friends, to enter England and teach their trade, their art, their practice, and make money off of it underneath the king's protection. And that's really interesting to me. Venice, 1421. And now Venice frequently granted patents. Oftentimes it was for glassmakers. They would come up with new ideas of making glass and blowing it and twisting it into different shapes and ways, and I find that pretty interesting. But what's really cool is this guy right here. I think it's Filippo Brunelleschi. I honestly have no idea how to pronounce it, but I think it's Brunelleschi. Yeah, that actually sounds pretty right. Yeah, Brunelleschi. So in 1450, he was granted a patent for 10 years. And there's a slight description, and it's something like he now has the patent to produce this machine to move limestone or cargo across long distances over water faster. That's how it's described. There's no in-depth description of how it works. There's no drawing. We only have the written documents on that. Until France, 1515. I'm sorry, not 1515, 1555. France in 1555, King Henry II introduced a concept of publishing a description in the patent. When I don't know if that's Abel or Abel Foulon, I don't speak French, so I'm just going off of stereotypical French. This was the first patent specification for usage et description des ondes, the Ohmmeter, which is a type of rangefinder. The Ohmmeter was used for making surveys and making diagonal measurements during surveys of land. And I think that's pretty neat. But what's really neat is this guy right here, Abel Foulon, because not only was he the engineer to the King of France after Leonardo da Vinci, which is really cool, but he was also the head of the mint. And that's really neat, because this guy I really want to learn more about, because it looks like he was just an absolute mad lad, absolute genius, very, very cool history. 16th century England. So the English crown frequently granted letters patent to monopolies. These monopolies then had the exclusive right to produce a thing. For example, what happened most of the time was actually salt. They would frequently grant letters patent to monopolies because they had a monopoly on salt. So therefore, only those monopolies could produce salt. Those who were producing it their own would then be brutally punished. And monopolies are a bad thing. So King James I of England, Statute of Monopolies. So what happened was, after a huge public outcry due to the granting of monopolies patent, letters patent to monopolies, the English Parliament introduced the Statute of Monopolies, which not only forced the king to revoke all existing monopolies and declare that they were only to be used for projects of new invention, it also restricted the king's power. So the king could only issue letters patent to inventors of original inventions. And this eventually became the foundation for all future patent law. And that's very interesting. Right now, I'm learning up on the 13 colonies in 1641. And then at that time, inventors obtained patents through petition, and they would send that into the English government. From there, I'm not sure where it goes because I haven't learned about that yet, but I just wanted to explain it and talk to you guys about it because I find it really interesting. And I think that's one thing that is very important. If you're interested in something, you know what you're doing. And I think one of the things is you should be excited about what you do or what you're learning. Don't be excited over getting good grades. Because a lot of times what people do is they learn about it and in the classroom, they learn about it like outside of class, to study for the class. And then once it's over, they're done, they forget about it. Don't do that. Learn something that's interesting to you, something that captivates you, something that just keeps you going. My name is Chase Hukill. I am the College Conservative, and thank you for watching my weekly show. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week.